So what's happening right now is Russia captured the biggest nuclear plant in Europe, took everyone hostage in it, and make them work for them almost as slaves, kill them if they don't like them and if they don't obey, and pretty much did like the counter-strike scenario, like the capture of nuclear plant and threatening everyone to blow it up. So that's why we have a special guest today, a legal director of Truth Hounds, a Ukrainian non-governmental organization which documents and investigates international crimes and serious human rights violations committed during Russian invasion of Ukraine. And they made a great report on how Rosatom turned Europe's largest nuclear plant into a torture chamber, and how the world can stop it. So Dmytro Koval, the legal director of Truth Hounds, hi. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me.
So, and my first question would be, like, what have you found in your investigation? What's the shocking things which we don't really talk about daily?
Let me probably start with the aims we had before we even engage in drafting this report and investigating these international crimes. So there are two basically tasks. The first one was to collect as much information as possible to show that the pressure that Rosatom and Russian authorities were putting on Ukrainian employees of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was systematic and really widespread. It's not just one incident or a couple of incidents. And the second task that we saw for ourselves was to connect somehow this pressure that amounted from time to time to torture or inhumane treatment could be connected to basically Rosatom, the entity, the Russian entity that supervises the nuclear facilities all over Russia and abroad. And that's how our report unwrapped and how our investigation came into being. We tried to find information that would show, that would demonstrate that the attacks, that the tortures were systematic, and that Rosatom is somehow connected as complacent in these war crimes. So from interviews that we received, that we gathered, we now can claim that indeed dozens of people survived through torture or inhumane treatment, and Rosatom at least complacent, so at least they enabled their perpetrators of those horrific crimes.
So how does it unfold? So are people living there as hostages? Do they make them do stuff? Why do they take them hostages? Why don't they, for instance, just send their Rosatom workers to the plant and leave these people free, living their lives?
I would say that there is this umbrella reason, as I call it, which unites all instances of torture on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And that would be their seeking loyalty of Ukrainian employees to Russia and to Rosatom. So the loyalty is indeed, the seeking of loyalty is indeed the umbrella goal of these tortures and inhumane treatment. But in individual instances, we can find also other reasoning behind or aims that Russian torturers have, and that's why basically they engage in torture. So that might be some posts on social media saying that Ukraine is the proper owner, sovereign owner of this plant, or Ukraine should be the sole power ruling in Al-Qaeda, or this might be the previous history of a particular employee. For instance, this employee could serve in law enforcement agencies, or he or she could fight in anti-terrorist operation, so-called, that started in 2014 when Russia first invaded Ukraine. Or there might be other reasons, for instance, some decision not to sign contract with Rosatom when Rosatom became operator of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So the reasons, individual reasons, may be different, but the overall goal is indeed to basically establish this system of loyalty between employees and Rosatom and Russian state.
But it is for a longest time been proven that torture does not actually give loyalty or give especially after certain research has been done, after, let's say state-sanctioned methods of extracting information from people from other countries. My question is, are they really trying to get Ukrainians from that power plant to cooperate, or do they just like torturing people as the same way Russian military does? So is it just Rosatom officials who are, as you in your report state, silently standing by, being very aware of the situation that's going on in these torture chambers? Is it just the sadistic nature of Russians, or does it actually work, and some Ukrainians actually do have to that way comply with whatever they're telling them to do?
It's in a way funny that you're asking this, because indeed, from our standpoint and from standpoint of many Ukrainians, it's kind of ridiculous to seek loyalty after you torture people. But it's indeed something that Russian officials aim at, and what they consider to be realistic. We documented incident when the employee of the Zaporizhzhia power plant was tortured. And later he got a call from the representative of Rosatom, and this representative basically asked this employee to return to his work on the Zaporizhzhia power plant, and he said that we can cooperate, etc. So after torture were committed, there is this call and this petition to get back to work. So probably from their standpoint, and they base it on their worldview, it's completely logical to torture someone and then to ask cooperation or to require cooperation from those people. So answering another question, whether it's a punishment or it's a stimulus, I think it's both from their standpoint. So it's indeed punishment for not cooperating, for not sharing information, but also it's a stimulus to basically subdue the person to cooperate with authorities, occupational authorities.
So just to give our viewers kind of an idea of what we're talking about, it's not just about threats and not just about like the situation you've explained, is that in your report you state numerous cases of physical abuse, of torture by the special equipment, of like tearing out nails out of people's hands and things. So it's a matter of it's hard to people somehow have grown sadly accustomed to the kind of torture that civilian populations on the occupied territories usually are subjected to. However, it is very important for the international community to understand that nuclear power plant and nuclear power scientists, Rosatom, and all of these things sound very fancy, but in reality, that kind of academic approach that people have to nuclear energy is, in this case, completely destroyed by the concept of that, the same people who have all these educations and all these qualifications are just, part of a Russian genocide against Ukrainians. Am I correct to assess that?
Yes, absolutely. That's again was one of the tasks of our report to unveil this complicity of Rosatom in the war crimes. So indeed, Rosatom is not only about business, this interstate business and science, as you mentioned, and all these fancy discussions regarding nuclear energy and the future of it, etc. It's also about indeed taking not active role, but still playing a role in organizing torture chambers in Al-Qaeda, and also on turning blind eye on these cases of torture, cases of inhumane treatment and other human rights violations that are happening in Al-Qaeda and Zaporizhzhia power plant in particular.
So it's just like and Rosatom is not sanctioned. They're building the nuclear plant in Hungary, in European Union. It's like if Al-Qaeda would have built in airport in Europe or something like that. This how is it possible? I mean, like what's like is there like any
Yeah, it's literally like Al-Qaeda building an airport. This is what it is. This is what it sounds like.
Torture is not only about human security per se, but it's also about the secure environment on the power plant. And that leads to the security of the power plant itself. So security of the power plant should be measured not from the only physical standpoint, like preservation of the installations on the premises of the power plant, but it's also about how good is the environment, whether in this environment people feel themselves safe, that they can communicate between each other, whether they can say something that goes wrong to the heads of departments or whatever. So if it's not the case, then the atmosphere in the collective, among the employees is bad, and that leads to mistakes of these same employees when they operate the station. And this already is happening. So we heard about such a mistake a couple of days ago. It led to minor accident, but still this is happening, and that's a consequences of tortures, of inhumane treatment, and other measures that are there on the power plant.
Could you tell more about this case?
Just to be clear again, I am not a nuclear expert, so an expert on nuclear energy. I can't tell you about this in technical terms, but it was some minor accident when the operator mistakenly changed some processes in the power plant, and that led to, again, minor revealing of dangerous forces into the atmosphere. So that was the case. You can read about
2 days ago
in the media. Yeah, it happened just a couple of days ago.
And
yes.
We didn't hear about that at all. Wow.
This wasn't in the media. Yeah, it's... I keep coming back to your remarks, to Mark's analogy that, currently when people talk about terrorism, they often talk about, the movie case scenarios. And this does sound like a horrible movie. But as a matter of fact, these things are coming and going in the media sphere, meaning that, a couple of months ago, everybody was super worried about Zaporizhzhia power plant. Now, for some reason, for the reasons I cannot explain, that is, for some reason, not in the media discussion anymore, even though not much has changed. I mean, nothing has changed, really. So what would be, in regard to this, what would be your message to the people who are watching this and who are worried and who know the real risks and consequences associated with this problem?
I think I will just repeat the colleague of mine who said during the presentation of our report that the actual resolvement of the situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant will come only when Ukrainian armed forces deoccupy Enerhodar and surrounding areas. So that will be the moment when we all can forget about the security situation in nuclear power plant. But before then, we should indeed be very vocal. We should really keep returning to this issue of the security on the power plant, because it's not guaranteed that the next day will be as good as today's. So that would be my message, probably, that we should keep talking about nuclear power plant in Enerhodar.
Oh, and this is what we're trying to do on this channel here regularly. This is why you should, every time you see our video, if you're not subscribed, you should subscribe to our channel. We should put a like or actually a dislike to this video if you feel like that. Also, please leave any comments you would like for us to read and listen. And also, please support this channel by donating via the links in the description under this video.
And let's hope some media attention will actually save some lives and save some health. Maybe it will make Russian be less Russian there for some reason. I don't know. And let's hope Enerhodar will be freed, liberated as soon as possible, so that horrible thing would end.
Thank you for spending the time with us, Dmytro. Thank you, Mark, for hosting the video, and we will see you guys next week.